That's for today, yeah.
Tzadik Beis Amud Aleph, 92a. Today we have some interesting statements by Rabbi, each of which deserve its own full Fabrengen. It's been like that already for a while, but some of them were clustered into themes. Das, leaving bread behind on the table, Torah scholar, and then the statements become less obviously connected, but obviously there are deeper connections between them, and perhaps we'll discover them as we go along. But independently, each of these statements is a whole Fabrengen. So let's see. The law begins with the word Bahadei, and then the second word is Va'amar. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines from the bottom of the page. Second word is Va'amar.
The very bottom of the page.
9 lines from the bottom.
Sorry.
Tzadik Beis Amud Aleph. And the second word is Va'amar. Va'amar, Rabbi Lezer, and Rabbi Lezer further stated, Kala machlif b'diburei. Literally means anybody who switches his words. What that means is, as Rashi explains for us, means he changes the way in which he speaks so that his language sounds, so that the meaning isn't as clear. Doesn't speak straightforward. He speaks in codes. That's the way Rashi explains it. So he's not speaking clearly. He's not speaking, I'm not talking about pronunciation, I'm talking about choice of words. Speaks in such a manner that the meaning of what he's saying isn't clear. So says Rabbi Lezer, someone who does that is ki'ilu oved avodah zarah. It says if he worships idols. It's pretty heavy. And he has a verse citation, Ksiv Hacha, it says here, when Yaakov is complaining to his mother that he doesn't want to go bring the food to his father Yitzchak and get the blessings instead of Esav, and he says maybe my father will touch me, because Yitzchak was blind to touch his children to see who it was. So my father might touch me, says Yaakov to his mother Rivka, and I'll be. I will be in his eyes like someone who's fooling him, deceiving him. So the word tateya here means to deceive, which is the way this person is speaking. He's speaking deceptively, he's speaking in codes. And Ksiv Hasim says elsewhere, with respect to idol worship, Hevel Hema, they are not, they are void. Maisa Tatuyim, they are words, they are actions of silliness. But using the same word Tatuyim, in that the word implies both silliness and deception. In one case, the person is presenting that which he's not being truthful to. Right? Yaakov is saying he's Esav, and he's saying that I'm deceptive and that I'm presenting myself as Yaakov. You have it?
Yeah.
And in the other case, it's silliness as in Yetzer Avodah Zarah, but the word is the same, and therefore, one who speaks deceptively is like he's worshipping idols. So, beyond the association of the verses, what is this connection between idol worship and speaking deceptively? So I'm borrowing that which Tanya writes with respect to Kol HaKoyis Ki Lo Oved Avodah Zarah. Anyone who's angry, it's as if he worships idols. And it explains there, Tanya, because, well, first of all, as we've been learning recently in our Shabbos Shir, any sin is an expression of Avodah Zarah. In that the essence of idol worship is the declaration that I am independent of Hashem. That's the essence of idol worship. And every sin is a declaration of I'm independent of Hashem. Hashem says don't do this, and I say no, I'm going to do it. But furthermore, but still deeper, there are certain things in which our sages specifically cite as things that are ki'ilu oved avodah zarah, as if he worships idols. And it would seem, therefore, that these things are even more expressive of one saying or declaring independence of Hashem, declaring lack of faith in Hashem. And the example Rabbi uses, and this is where I'm borrowing from, is the idea of kol hakoyos, anyone who gets angry. Because anger implies I don't have faith that what happened to me was by Hashem's design. if I had full, complete faith that what happens to me is by Hashem's will, then what am I angry about? So therefore, perhaps the same thing is over here. Why is a person speaking machlef diburi? Why is he speaking in codes? Because he's scheming. He thinks that in order to get what he wants, he has to be dishonest. He has to use special language and not say what he means because he wants the other person to think that, and then he's going to go back and say, well, I didn't lie. I just meant it that way. And he has a whole scheme to get what he wants. If he had faith in Hashem, and he had faith that everything that's supposed to happen will happen, then he's going to be honest and straightforward in his language. And therefore, speaking deceptively, perhaps, is like avodah zarah, kila avodah zarah. It's like idol worship in that, in behaving deceptively, he's demonstrating that he thinks he needs to rely on his schemes to get what he needs, as opposed to relying on Hashem and just be honest. Statement number 1, that requires its own independent verbringen. Statement number 2.
I was going to say,
Sorry?
The seal of Hashem is emes.
The seal of Hashem is truth.
So if he has not emes, he's following another seal of a...
I think these two messages are linked.
They're related, of course, but it's another way of putting it. So.
Okay, then the verse is like this. Rabbi Lezer further stated, call him a mistakel be'erva, anybody who looks, mistakel is more than looks. Gazes. Means he gazes. Mistakel is to gaze. There's different words used to look. It's re'iyah, it's to see, meaning you, even if you just, habata is probably even deeper than mistakel, which means to like almost contemplate. Mabit is like almost to contemplate. But mistakel also means to gaze, to look at something. Not just your eyes happen to catch it. It means you're looking at it. So, anybody who gazes at, literally ever means nakedness. It means a
Too preoccupied?
No. Ever means nakedness. It means the body part of a woman's nakedness. It means her private area.
It can be under makom erva, or maybe it also means that a woman's an erva to him. He can't marry her anyway, so it's
or he's looking at someone who's like that.
forbidden to him. The erva can be makom erva, or it can mean the woman's an erva.
Maybe it doesn't necessarily mean the part of her body. It means somebody who's forbidden to him.
Forbidden to him. So what's the
That's
point?
also,
He never can remarry her. There's no eighth.
Yeah.
All he can do is lead to improper thoughts.
Okay. Either way, so that looks at nakedness. I think it fits with all of this.
Yeah,
So says the Gemara.
I thought nitakel also means contemplation. That's why I made the comment.
Mistakel means to contemplate. Means to gaze. Means to look intently. To look intently.
You haven't Perek Chelek.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it means also consideration.
Consideration, exactly.
Not just looking with the eyes, but consideration with the mind. Yeah. Okay. So is that more than habata or less than habata?
You can say it's more than one because it's the
because it requires concentration.
That's right.
But mabit also means to like
look, but
not just to look. Mabit also means to like to measure, to like almost to like weigh. Like I'm looking at something and I'm analyzing it as a habata almost.
Contemplating it.
Yeah, contemplating it, but like I'm looking at it to weigh it, to measure it. The stakel, I guess, also means consideration. I don't know what the difference exactly. Okay, so I'll leave that.
Obviously, you can see that the sachal, you should make the samach into a scene. Seichel means you put the
You're
image
using
in
some
your mind.
right.
It's like you're downloading the image into your mind so it remains in the memory.
So I don't know what the difference between habata and the stakel is. We'll leave that on the side.
Looking, gazing, but more just the eyes itself. But the stakel goes into the mind and it remains there.
Habata doesn't include mind concentration.
Not as much. It's more just like the
Habita v'shemayim, where the A is more than just to look. It's also to take into consideration.
That urace, you have the extra verb.
Right, but the habata is like to take it to consider.
Then you have to put it into your mind. Where A is another one. But
anyway, okay.
Like
anyway, the stakel definitely is gazing and requires some concentration. So that's what he's doing to erva, to nakedness, literally, either to part of the body or to someone who's forbidden to. Let's go with both of those. So kashnoi ninaeres, his bow loses its strength. It means this impotence. That's what it means. So Shneimar, as the verse reads, Erya tar kashtacha. Yeah, where's the verse here? It's a verse in Chavakuk. And the implication is that the area, this engagement in that which is, you're looking at that which is not good, loses the bow. That's what Rashi says. Right? Yeah, no, but Rashi explains it. Okay. At any rate, so on one level, one can look at this as a punishment. It's punishment for looking where he's not supposed to and considering that which he's not supposed to. he's punished in that area, measure for measure. He's looking at it and considering it obviously for lustful thoughts, and thus he loses his lustful ability, lustful strength. That's the simple way of reading this. But as, first of all, in general, like we talked about before, one of the ways of looking at punishment is not so much punishment, but direct consequence, not compensation. As in, like, you misbehave, so you get a slap on the wrist, but rather direct results of what you're doing. And therefore, we might suggest this even on a psychological level. And that is, one of the things or the beauties that's explained about nida, about this, the time that man and woman have to separate and then they come back together, is that in their separation, it creates the desire to want to be together. There's a line from the Baal Shem Tov which is Tainug Tmidi, Einoi Tainug. Consistent pleasure is no longer pleasurable. If it's always there, there's nothing unique about it, right? Or another way of putting it is, my father likes to use this language, is that yes only has value if you say no sometimes. If it's yes to everything, then it doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. So perhaps, therefore, called Mastakel Be'erva, one who literally gazes and contemplates and looking at even his own wife, looking at her nakedness, meaning to say that he becomes so nonchalant that he loses his impotence just by dint of the fact that there's nothing unique and special anymore. It's lost all specialty. It's lost all meaning. Okay, so she, it's a little bit a Hollywoodized version of marriage where we're so comfortable we can do anything and we can see anything and there's no boundaries of no, this is inappropriate look, this is inappropriate touch, this is inappropriate behavior. There's no boundaries like that. Everything is fine. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. And what happens is you become desensitized. And when you're desensitized, then it lacks the uniqueness, it lacks the specialness, it lacks excitement. And therefore the natural result is, as the Gemara describes it here, the person loses his capacity to get excited because it's not exciting anymore. He sees it all the time and it's all fine, it's all good, it's all there. And it lacks a uniqueness and a specialness. Perhaps a suggested explanation as to what this means.
The threshold effect.
Sorry?
The threshold. You need a certain, let's say, amount of stimulation to get aroused, whether it's the women or with anything.
Any pleasures like that,
The problem with addiction. So the problem is, if you get used to it, the threshold rises.
So you have to push more.
So you need more. The same is true, by the way, even for kids, even like going deaf, listen to rock music, whatever, at a loud level, and the hearing gets impaired, so you have to increase the volume, and then eventually
the Gemara like that, which says about David Melech.
Sure, same principle.
The Gemara says that David Melech, distracted by the thoughts of women, decided he'll get it out of the way by being with women.
With his wife, with
his own wife, with his own wives. Not forbidden behavior. Nothing here is forbidden. We're not talking about forbidden behavior. We're talking about attitude more. And so he's with his wives. And the Gemara says, he didn't realize that Masbi Yorav, the one who's satisfied, gets hungrier. Because the threshold for excitement keeps on growing and growing and growing. And the proper way to maintain a healthy relationship is by having boundaries, and there are no's, and then the yes becomes valuable. If yes all the time, then it just pushes it more and more and more, and like the Gemara puts it here, loses. I'm not going to put Chas v'Shalom David Melech into this category, God forbid. I'm just sharing this to make the same point that it's a natural result. This punishment is a natural result of overindulgence or mistakal be'elva. It's constantly thinking and gazing about it, so it loses its.
But isn't the opposite also valid? As in, if somebody is used to something and then he kind of just stops cold turkey, and then he always has that yearning for that until he snaps and he can.
Snaps is one thing, or he's married and he has times when he's with his wife and times when he's not with his wife, like a healthy nida. That's the point of the nida. That's one of the things of the nida. One of the points of the separation between husband and wife during certain times of the month is for that. It's Hashem's decree, but one of the benefits is this idea that you're not always there. Sometimes there's yes and sometimes there's no.
That's because of Ragil V'Katzba.
Ragil V'Katzba, yeah. Siratze V'Shuv.
Yeah.
Start to get close and then you move back. Step away. Okay. Last line for today, another Fabrenyan. Rabbi Lezer further says, La'olam, as a rule, have a person should be kabel in the shadows, in the dark, anonymous, humble, discreet, v'kayim, and that's how he'll survive. A person who's bombastic in his, even if he's doing good things, but if he's bombastic about it, inevitably, his ego is going to rub somebody else's ego, and if it rubs enough people's egos, they're not going to like him very much, and he won't survive in whatever arena he's planning out. But if he's kabel, if he's doing his success in the shadows, and he does things anonymously, does everything he has to without claiming or asking for recognition and the limelight, then he'll survive. And for your own ego, don't worry about it. People will recognize what you have to do, and if they don't, it's okay. It's also okay.
Hashem
recognizes it. That the point that he's saying here is a person should be in the shadows rather than everything he accomplishes has to be broadcasted. Because otherwise, inevitably somebody else is not going to like it, and he's not going to survive.
As opposed to the Hollywood limelight.
Sorry?
As opposed to
the Hollywood limelight. Yeah, going back to the same thing. They also have little globes they bow down to, little idols.
Yeah. Oscar.
They have little images, graven images that they all worship. Yeah. God forbid. I'm saying it tongue in cheek, but not so tongue in cheek. At any rate, Rabbi Zera, sorry.
We have these steps of concrete for the stars.
They don't they also have like a? They literally use the word idol in some of their shows. Literally use the word idol.
That's right, literally, yeah. American Idol. That's right.
They want to be worshipped. Not only do they want to worship some little thing, they want to be worshipped. Here it's done the opposite. Kabel, you stay in the shadows, do what you have to without fanfare, without expectation of a show, and kayam, then you'll survive. You'll get what you have to get done.
They should spell it IDLE.
It's also true, yeah, in English. So idol, but the Beatles.
Oh, it's supposed to.
It says IDOL.
OL, yeah.
IDLE, like idol. Like
I see.
Beatles, man. Yeah.
I see. Like sitting idly,
You're
doing nothing.
nothing with your time, basically.
Got it.
That's the idol that you're
Got it.
wasting.
Yeah.
What does it say, be in the shadow? Kabel means be in the shadow?
Kabel, yeah.
Kabel, yeah, means to be
Is there
quiet.
A meaning of it?
Yeah. You look at Rashi, actually explains it. Kabel lashon afel means like darkness or shadow.
Maybe more Aramaic than Hebrew. We'll check it later in the dictionary.
Yeah. Okay, so one line. The next line has continued to this. It's not from Rebbe Lezer, but it's on the same lines.
Bring a right.
Rabbi Zera says, we also have a Mishnaic H text which backs up this idea of the value of staying in the dark. Now, at the surface, the two statements don't seem to connect, but if we dig a little deeper, we'll see how they do connect. Clearly, because Rabbi Zera is using it as a proof text, right? So the proof text is like this: Bayis afel, a home that's dark. Ein poischon leicha loinus. You don't open up the windows, lidois nigoi, to see its faults, to see its tzaras, right? The halacha is, it actually points out, based on the pasuk, that tzaras, like the spiritual leprosy, which can be on a house, is only if you happen to see it. You're not required to go find it. And therefore, if the house is dark, don't start opening windows, and all of a sudden you're going to start finding tzaras, and you have to declare it impure, and its problems. So therefore, here you see also the value of darkness, of being in the shadows. Shema Mino, this is a good proof text. But what's the connection, seemingly? Here's talking about being humble in your behaviors, and here's talking about not seeing tzaras on a home. Maybe they both happen to be in the dark, and they both use the same language, but there's got to be something more. And therefore, perhaps, think about it even think about it, live very shortly, you can see a person who lives humbly and doesn't have to show off his accomplishments is the same person who doesn't need to see the faults of everybody.
I also don't see his own faults.
Right? He wants somebody who's, his accomplishments are out there, and he needs recognition, and he's this, and all of a sudden he's looking at everybody else to see was that person. Oh, look, he has faults, so my accomplishments are better than his, and look, this person has that fault. But if he does what he has to, and he's happily doing what he has to, he looks at somebody else and says, "Oh, he's also doing good and beautiful things." They go together. They go together. Being humble about one's own accomplishments go hand in hand with not seeing faults in yourself, so that doesn't cripple you. Because you're always worried. When you're in the limelight, you're always worried about, do I look good? Am I doing something wrong? Is someone's going to say something wrong about me? It's okay. You don't have to see every fault. Do what you have to, and certainly not seeing faults in others They very much go together.
You're seeing it as the opening of the windows. In the
Opening the
curtain.
windows isn't looking
He's
to find.
looking out to look at us.
No, he's opening the window to bring the light into the room because he's looking for the faults. He's looking for the faults in the wall.
Bring light in the.
He's looking for the tzaras. He's looking for the blemishes.
He's looking for the faults in
Yes, they
himself.
want to put the light everywhere. Light on me. Look how great I am. Light on everybody. Look how bad he is.
But also, the fault works the other way. People look at him, so if the windows are closed,
Or the other way around.
People don't
If you
see
put the
his
limelights on him,
Exactly.
then he's also worried about his
want to-
faults, and people will see his faults.
Yeah, sure. Yes, fault
As opposed to someone who stays,
So stay in the. It's okay to stay in the dark.
yeah,
Yeah, keep
Do
a
what you have
low
to humbly.
Profile,
I was
be humble
looking at it a
about
little
it.
different. I was
Yeah.
looking at the first statement being, be discreet. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You don't have to tout your all your accomplishments. Be humble.
Yeah.
And by not opening up your windows and everything to the world is basically no one has to
See everything.
the that you're such a
I see.
accomplished, wealthy,
Right.
with all your beautiful paintings and chandeliers. It's okay.
And when you,
Just
and
be
you keep
humble.
when you keep it humble, they won't see the faults either.
Yeah, that's
Once
right.
you
go
Everyone's
together.
here, everyone's, so be discreet even in the way you present your home to people. Like,
Yeah.
don't look at this. Look at
I just want to add, that when we speak about humility, we have to be wary of aniva shaloibim kaimai, misplaced humility. Misplaced humility is also a form of ego, and there's a famous story of I think it was second Chabad Rebbe. During that time, there was the beginning of the Pale Settlements, and they had certain chassidim who were like mashpiyim. They were preachers, influencers, and they would travel to these towns and teach chassidus.
Like maggot.
Sorry.
Like a
Like a Maggid, yeah, a Chassidic version of Maggid. They would go from town to town, inspiring, encouraging, teaching Chassidus. So this person comes to the Mittel Rebbe and tells the Mittel Rebbe that he feels like a tzibala, because he feels like an onion. I mean, to say his ego is growing, and he feels good about he's going, everybody's, look, he must be in town, everybody's excited, he feels good about himself, he teaches, and he sees the listeners. So the Mittel Rebbe told him, a tzibala is stavern, Chassidus is chazrin. Be an onion, but continue doing what you have to. I mean, don't let your perceived idea of wanting to be humble ruin what you have to get done. In other words, do what you have to. Do it humbly. But don't start thinking that because, I'm becoming too egotistical, so now you're not going to start doing your accomplishments. That itself is a form of ego. You're trying to placate yourself by saying, I'm not going to do anything because I don't want to be too holy. In a similar vein, I was once by a Fabrengen, who was a monumental Fabrengen, Gimel Thomas Fabrengen actually, a couple of years ago. 10 years ago, maybe more. I was in yeshiva then, and there was quite a few scholars around the table, and two of the scholars, one of them was my Rosh Yeshiva at the time, Rabbi Yisrael Friedman, who is the way I learned Gemara today still follows the method that he taught. I still learn in the way he taught. He's a big Talmud Chacham and very witty, very very clever. And another person sitting there was Rabbi Yoel Khan. Rabbi Yoel Khan is the Rebbe's redactor is the word, like transcriber, right? The redactor. He would memorize all the Rebbe's teachings and then write it down. He worked the most close with the Rebbe on all the writings of the Rebbe's published talk. So any talk that's published by the Rebbe, in some way or another, Rabbi Yoel Khan is involved in the writing of it, the transcribing of it, the editing of it, something. So he's essentially the foremost scholar on Hasidic philosophy living today. So when you're in his presence, nobody talks. He talks and you listen. And the same thing with Rabbi Yisrael. My Rosh Yeshiva, who's a big guy, but Rabbi Yoel Khan sitting there, he's not speaking. And Rabbi Yoel Khan tells him, Yisrael, herif mit dein bittel and verbreng. Means enough with your bittel and verbreng already. In other words, you're being all humble and everything, and what's the result of your humility? Then nobody gets to hear you. Don't play the humility.
So come out of the closet and
Yeah, so even though a person should be humble, he's not looking for the recognition, he's not looking for the limelight, but this should never come at the expense of getting the job that you have to get done.
Yeah, we have the Gemara. If you keep a laka from your Talmud,
But before, someone who holds back Allah from his Talmud is no good. So he can also play the humble card. I'm not teaching everybody because I'm being humble. That's not a good thing. All right, have a wonderful day. Good Chodesh, everybody.